We're active in about 15 campuses, and we're growing very, very quickly. And keep in mind, this is not just a flash in the pan movement. We're going to become an institution to give them the power and the confidence to stand up and let their voice be heard. I started this organization when I was 18 years old. I decided not to go to college. I didn't get in my dream school, which was the United States Military Academy at West Point. I have this idea to galvanize and motivate the future youth of this country around a core set of ideas, not just political parties or politicians. And the ideas are really America's the greatest country in the history of the world. The Constitution is the greatest political document ever written, and free enterprise is the most assured way to lift people out of poverty and create prosperity for all. Those are the three big ideas. And I think that's something that can win. We as Christians are called to go into the public arena to correct error with truth. So I go to college campuses and there's a lot of error. We're all sinners. We all live in error. I'm far more interested in what God wants of me than what I want from God.
I have to say this without getting emotional, but I'm very proud of my husband. And I know many of you are too. You have worked so hard. And I know a lot of you have seen, obviously, his videos on TikTok and all the stuff he does on campus, but no one gets to see him from my angle except for myself and our children. And the sacrifices that he made this year, he's amazing. I'm very blessed.
And I would not have been able to do any of it without Erika. And that's the real truth. I'll tell you what. You are here as a grassroots response to the top-down revolution happening in this country. I want our Turning Point USA students to receive a round of applause. These are the freedom fighters of America.
The media said that Turning Point could never run a ground game. They weren't experienced. They didn't know Charlie, right?
This is the greatest generational realignment since Woodstock. This generation is the most conservative generation that we have seen in well over 50 years, and the numbers show it. What young people especially are screaming at is they say, give me a structure that I can live my life by. And especially with young men, more challenging of them, more saying, you know what, honestly, I'm not gonna talk down to you. Stop being a boy and become a man. You wanna learn what that means? Come to church and I'll tell you what it means to become a man. Because we have the greatest story ever told. What can I do to save the country? You answer that question every single day, because you are doing the work to save this beautiful republic. You are doing something that is bigger than you.
If everything completely goes away, how do you want to be remembered?
I want to be remembered for courage for my faith. That would be the most important thing. Most important thing is my faith in my life.
Greetings. Friends, fellow patriots, fellow citizens, and even non-citizens, and welcome to this week's edition of the We the People Convention weekly news and opinion podcast. My name is Tom Zawistowski, and I am the host of this podcast, and I am the president of the We the People Convention organization. And I thank you for taking your time this week to watch this podcast, to learn, to help yourself understand the world we're in and the threats that exist to your and my individual freedom, liberty, and prosperity. I am wearing black in mourning because this has been a horrible week. I have been telling all of you for many weeks now that we are in a hot civil war with the communist left, and that people are dying, and that casualties are being had. and that it's a real war, and we must win it. We must win it. And this week's events, unfortunately, brought that home to all of us. In the most tragic way. This is personal for all of us. Many of you knew Charlie Kirk. Many of you felt you knew him because you watched his videos, you watched his radio show, his podcast. This organization, we knew Charlie Kirk intimately. And I'll explain that to those of you who are new. We've lost a longtime friend. And we're going to talk about what that means and what happens going forward. So let me just begin, with the story as it was. Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk was assassinated this week. Conservative influencer Charlie Kirk, age 31, was fatally shot in the neck while speaking at an event in Utah Valley University at approximately 12:10 Mountain Time, 2:10 Eastern Time on September 10th. Only one shot was fired. The university said the shooter fired from the Low C Center building roughly 200 yards away from Charlie Kirk. A bullet struck his neck. He was immediately taken to the hospital by a security team. Hours later, it was announced that he had died, leaving behind his wife, Erika Kirk, and their 2 young children. According to officials, 6 university police officers were on duty during a campus event in which a political activist Charlie Kirk was assassinated, and more than 3,000 people were in attendance to see him murdered, including his wife. This was an attack on our nation, not just on Charlie Kirk. This was an attack on the values of our nation, free speech. They literally assassinated him when he was doing what they claim we need: civil debate, respect for each other. They killed him symbolically, doing what all of us believe is essential to our freedom and our liberty and our prosperity, which is what this organization is about: protecting and defending our individual freedom, liberty, and prosperity, all of which depends on free speech. I posted on X a statement after it was confirmed that Charlie had died, that I texted to you. And if you don't get our texts and emails, why haven't you gone to We the People Convention.org and signed up? Or at least follow me on X, Tom Z, WTPC. And I said, our hearts are broken by the tragic news of Charlie Kirk's assassination, but our spirit is not broken. Charlie would not have it any other way. I am so thankful that Nan and I got to see him and speak to him one last time 2 weeks ago. We love you, Charlie, and we will see you someday in heaven. Tom Zawistowski, President, We the People Convention. Donald Trump posted, "The great and even legendary Charlie Kirk is dead. No one understood or had the heart of the youth in the United States of America better than Charlie. He was loved and admired by all, especially me. And now he is no longer with us. Melania and my sympathies go out to this beautiful wife, Erika, and family. Charlie, we love you. Those messages are posted on this article at wethepeopleconvention.org. Charlie is a martyr. What's the definition of a martyr? A person who is killed or suffers greatly because of their faith, beliefs, or principles. He was killed because of all of that, because of his faith, his beliefs, and his principles. A martyr is someone who endures a great pain or sacrifice for a cause or principle or belief they deeply hold. What were those? What was the cause? The cause was America. He was wearing a shirt when he was shot that said freedom. He believed in our great country because it was founded on belief in God, that our rights come from our Creator and are inalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's what Charlie Kirk was doing. He was defending those rights. He was professing them. And he was professing an unwavering, unbelievable faith in God and in his belief in Jesus Christ. I need you to understand, this is just not some other guy. This is not. Charlie Kirk was the best of us. The best of us. I knew him. I never knew anyone like him because he was true. He spoke truth always. He was uncompromising in his faith and in his love. He was not afraid, and I'll demonstrate that for you. This is a man in the category of our founding fathers, many of whom, like Thomas Jefferson, was 33, Charlie Kirk was 31, but he was so smart. He educated himself by reading books. He quoted great economists and the Bible like that. He had an understanding of economics and history. He was like our founding fathers who were self-educated. There has been a massive outreach of vigils all over this country, spontaneous vigils everywhere, all over the globe. Tens of thousands gathered in London. I think it's in Australia. It's all over. The Polish parliament had a moment of silence. This was no ordinary man. He was an evangelical Christian. If he was Catholic, he would be canonized a saint. Because he literally lived his life that way. I'm not exaggerating. We don't lie here. We tell the truth. You, to our benefit, I witnessed greatness, true greatness. And I was inspired by it. And I am still inspired by it. You should be inspired by it. It's been so hard, and I know it's been hard for many of you. How do you deal with this? But it's God's will. And I've got comfort You know, I know many of you, and I know some of you are watching this today, so that maybe I can say some things that will help you. But I was searching for voices, for words, for thoughts. And I got some great comfort because I listened to Matt Gaetz's show on One American News on Thursday night. And he shared his relationship with Charlie, which was much closer than I knew. And he talked about how in Charlie talked about this, literally talked about being assassinated, about the world we're in. And Charlie posted, he said, we have an assassination culture on the left that must be addressed. And Matt Gaetz said that when he and Charlie talked about it and about security and is he afraid and should he stop going to college campuses? Should he stop saying what he's saying? Charlie said no. He said, I trust in God. God will decide. And God did decide. And by Matt Gaetz sharing with me that Charlie, and he did say that Charlie and his wife spoke about this, that their faith was at the core of everything. It helped me to understand that if Charlie Kirk could accept this, then so can I, so can you. We have no choice. We must accept it. It is. It happened. Can't understand it. I don't understand it. You can't rationalize it. You accept it. And then you grow from it. This is God's plan. Charlie talked about, and others mentioned, that people would say to him, what's your succession plan? If something happens to you, who takes over? And many of you over the years have written to me and asked me, what's your succession plan? Who's going to take over when I had my heart attack, if I passed away? And Charlie Kirk said, you are the succession plan. You are the next Charlie Kirk, to the people who asked him. And I say the same to you. You're the next Tom Zawistowski. I spent 16 years, longer than Charlie Kirk spent, teaching you, coaching you, inspiring you, giving you the tools, showing you by example. I believe in that. God put me here to play this role. And believe you me, Nan and I know what Charlie is talking about, because we've had the death threats. We've had the physical attacks. We've had the attacks on our lives, our business. That's just part of the deal. But we've never been afraid because we believed in God. We trusted that this is what we're supposed to do, that God had a plan. And he does. For me, for you, for all of us, for America. Okay? And so, there's now thousands of Charlie Kirks, maybe millions. We're going to talk about that. But Charlie Kirk, believed in God so much that when Trump won the election, his wife Erika said, Charlie, you did it. And Charlie said, no, God did it. I said the same thing to Nan and to my friends and to you. We just did what God asked us to do. God saved Donald Trump. God won the election. God put us in this position to continue with the defense of our nation. Okay? And God took Charlie Kirk because Charlie had done what he'd asked him to do. And through his death is going to do even more. I said that we gave Charlie Kirk his start. And for those of you watching, you can see the press release. Turning Point founder, first speaker announced for 2014 We the People Convention. Tom Zawistowski, president of the We the People Convention, announced today that Charlie Kirk, founder and executive director of Turning Point USA, will be one of the featured speakers at the 4th annual convention to be held in Columbus on September 20th. Turning Point is one of the most effective and fastest growing conservative outreach organizations for high school and college students in the nation, Zawistowski said. We met Charlie Kirk at the South Carolina Tea Party Convention in January, and we were very impressed with his commitment and approach to teaching conservative values to high school and college students. His organization is reaching American youth in ways that no other organization has before. We encourage attendees to bring their high school and college-age children to our convention to meet Charlie and join his organization. And you did that. You, the members of this organization saw Charlie Kirk's potential and invested in it over the years. You and I, this organization, your donations went to help Turning Point, to help them every way we could. Most recently, we gave $5,000 of the money that you donate to this organization to help Charlie and Turning Point launch their new faith-based organization, which you saw mentioned in that video I played at the beginning. And just 2 weeks ago, Nan and I were with Charlie. And he saw me across the room. And he said, Tom Z, Mr. Tea Party, so glad to see you. And we hugged. And I told him I was so excited because he had talked on his radio show just recently about the faith event they had held and how he was so excited about the pastors getting involved with Turning Point. I'm so thankful. I was so thankful that that happened. And so the question is, what happens now? You know, where do we go from here? And there's been a lot going on since this happened. And the question is, they want civil war. They want civil war. They will do anything to end this country. And that's what this is about. They're trying to end it. They're trying to provoke us. And I understand that. I understand your anger. I'm angry. You have a right to be angry. Charlie Kirk was our future, not just our present. He would have been a president of the United States, 31 years old. What would he have done in the next 50 years? We invested in him. That was an investment in our future, in our nation. And it was taken from us by the evil amongst us. But it's God's plan, and we accept that. And greater good will come. Now, last night, his wife, Erika, spoke to the nation. You may not have seen it. You're going to see it now. I'm going to play it for you right now because you need to see it and every American needs to see it. And I noticed today as I'm going through The Hill and the New York Times, they talk about she spoke, but they don't have a link to the video. They don't want you to see it. This is the answer. This is what's going to happen next from this beautiful, brave, courageous, intelligent, loving woman. Pay attention. Listen up. I will link this so you can share it with the world.
Good evening. My name is Erika Kirk. Charlie Kirk is my husband. I first want to thank the local, state, and federal law enforcement who worked tirelessly to capture my husband's assassin so that he can be brought to justice. I want to thank the first responders who struggled heroically to save Charles's life, and the police who acted bravely to make sure that there were no other victims on that terrible afternoon. I want to thank the officers who have protected our Turning Point USA family these past 2 days. And I want to thank the Turning Point USA board, the COO, Justin Strife, and my husband's chief of staff, the amazing Mikey McCoy, for all their work in these terrible days to be the stability for our family and for the wider Turning Point USA family as well. My heart is with every one of my husband's employees who lost a friend and a mentor. I want to thank the staffers of his amazing Charlie Kirk show, who helped him broadcast from this studio, this chair. Every day he loved it. He loved what he did. I want to thank the millions of people who have shown their love for Charlie here in Phoenix, across America, and worldwide. I want to thank my husband's dear friend, Vice President Vance, and his phenomenal wife, Usha, for their love and support. You guys honored my husband so well bringing him home. You both are tremendous. I want to thank President Trump and his incredible family for the same. Mr. President, my husband loved you. And he knew that you loved him too. He did. Your friendship was amazing. You supported him so well, as did he for you. 2 days ago, my husband, Charlie, went to see the face of his Savior and his God. Charlie always said that when he was gone, he wanted to be remembered for his courage and for his faith. And one of the final conversations that he had on this earth, my husband witnessed for his Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Now and for all eternity, he will stand at his Savior's side, wearing the glorious crown of a martyr. Charlie loved life. He loved his life. He loved America. He loved nature, which helped him always bring him closer to God. He loved the Chicago Cubs. And my goodness, did he love the Oregon Ducks. He'd want me to say go Ducks, so I have to since they play on Saturday. So go Ducks. But most of all, Charlie loved his children. And he loved me with all of his heart. And I knew that. Every day I knew that. He made sure I knew that every day. Every day he would ask me, how can I serve you better? How can I be a better husband? How can I be a better father? Every day. Every day. He was such a good man. He still is a good man. He was the perfect father. He was the perfect husband. Charlie always believed that God's design for marriage and the family was absolutely amazing, and it is. It is, and it was the greatest joy of his life. And over, he would tell all these young people to come and find their future spouse, become wives and husbands and parents. And the reason why is because he wanted you all to experience what he had and still has. He wanted everyone to bring heaven into this earth through love and joy that comes from raising a family. It's beautiful. Charlie always said that if he ever ran for office, I know a lot of you asked if he ever was going to, but privately he told me if he ever did run for office that his top priority would be to revive the American family. That was his priority. One of Charlie's favorite Bible verses was Ephesians 5, verse 25. Husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. My husband laid down his life for me, for our nation, for our children. He showed the ultimate and true covenantal love. I will never, ever have the words to describe the loss that I feel in my heart. I honestly have no idea what any of this means. I know that God does, but I don't. But Charlie, baby, I know you do too. I know you do. So does our Lord. And our world is filled with evil. But our God, you guys, our God is so good. He's so incredibly good. And we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good, for those who are called according to his purpose. Already I have seen the worldwide outpouring of love for my husband. I've heard the testimonies from people my husband inspired to get married, to start families, to seek out a relationship with God. It's the most important one of all. The evildoers responsible for my husband's assassination have no idea what they have done. They killed Charlie because he preached a message of patriotism, faith, and of God's merciful love. But they should all know this. If you thought that my husband's mission was powerful before, you have no idea. You have no idea what you just have unleashed across this entire country and this world. You have no idea. You have no idea the fire that you have ignited within this wife. The cries of this widow will echo around the world like a battle cry. To everyone listening tonight across America, the movement my husband built will not die. It won't. I refuse to let that happen. It will not die. All of us will refuse to let that happen. No one will ever forget my husband's name, and I will make sure of it. It will become stronger, bolder, louder, and greater than ever. My husband's mission will not end, not even for a moment. And one of Charlie's greatest talents was his ability, this phenomenal ability to choose great people to follow him. He could always find the ones who could handle any setback. And it's almost like he knew. He could see it in you. Even when you couldn't see it in yourself, he just knew. He knew you could handle it. You thought you only had 5% left, and he knew you had 15. He knew you were ready to go that extra mile even when you didn't. He always challenged people around him to work harder and to be better. He never gave up. And I love knowing that one of his mottos was never surrender. So I want to tell you that we'll never surrender. We never will. Ever. Ever. Our campus tour this fall will continue. There will be even more tours in the years to come. America Fest here in Phoenix this December will go on. It will be greater than ever. The radio and podcast show that he was so proud of will go on. And in a world filled with chaos, doubt, and uncertainty, my husband's voice will remain. And it will ring out louder and more clearly than ever. And his wisdom will endure. My favorite too, but my husband's favorite word in the English language was earn. He would call all of you to be people of action who earn the future America deserves. So to all of the young people who felt inspired by my husband's faith and hard work, all of you already know what Charlie would want you to do. You know. You know. If you're in high school or if you're in college, go find your local Turning Point USA chapter. Join it. Stay involved. He wants you to make a difference. And you can. You can. The movement's not going anywhere, and it will only grow stronger when you join it. If there isn't a chapter, you can't find one, then start one. There is no excuse. You can start one. And as my husband used to say in this room, every single day, if you want to get involved, the best way you can do that is going to tpusa.com. That's what he would say every day from this chair. Every single day. I watched his show every day, and he would always say, if you want to get involved, go to tpusa.com. If you're a pastor, join our movement at TPUSA Faith. And if you're a parent, I highly recommend that you come to America Fest in December. Sign up right now for that because we would love to see you. I would love to see you. Charlie would. He'll be there. He'll be there in spirit. Bring your kids, bring your family. But most important of all, if you aren't a member of a church, I beg you to join one. A Bible-believing church. Our battle is not simply a political one. Above all, it is spiritual. It is spiritual. The spiritual warfare is palpable. Charlie loved his Savior with all of his heart, and he wanted every one of you to know him too. He wanted everyone to know that if they confess the Lord Jesus Christ who rose from the dead, then they will be saved. Hear me when I say this, nobody is ever too young to know the gospel. Nobody. Nobody is ever too young to get involved with saving this beautiful country. This country my husband loved and still loves. And nobody is ever too old either. There's no age limit. I know my husband is still here. He's watching over us. I don't remember the last time I slept. I couldn't sleep last night. And Charlie, baby. Charlie, I promise I will never let your legacy die, baby. I won't. I promise I'll make Turning Point USA the biggest thing that this nation has ever seen. I promise. Charlie, I love you. I love you, baby. Rest in the arms of our Lord as he blankets you with the words I know your heart always strived to hear. Well done, my good and faithful servant. When I got home last night, Gigi, our daughter, just ran into my arms. And I talked to her and she said, Mommy, I missed you. I said, I miss you too, baby. She goes, where's Daddy? What do you tell a 3-year-old? She's 3. I said, baby, Daddy loves you so much. Don't you worry. He's on a work trip with Jesus, so he can afford your blueberry budget. And my goodness, am I so humbled to witness, Charlie, you alongside Jesus right now, doing what you always want to do, baby. Making heaven crowded, right? That's what it's all about. Making heaven crowded. I can't wait to see you again one day. Thank you all again who love my husband, who supported him, who wrote him an email every single day during his radio show. He read all of them. All of them. God bless you all. And may God bless America.
When Charlie started his organization and called it Turning Point, I thought it was a strange name. I mean, I understand, what a turning point is, but it wasn't clear it didn't define his organization. It didn't help clarify what they were doing, and like things like Freedom Works, but it worked and he made it work. But I now understand what you just saw there. That's what it is. A turning point for our nation. That's what God did with Charlie and this organization. This is a turning point. She said what Charlie cared most about was families and faith and young people. I had a conversation with my nephew Jake from Missouri last night, high school senior. And we were talking about this. I said, Jake, here's the best thing. You're not alone. You've got this organization, Turning Point USA, where you can find fellowship and support. And you can live your values without fear. And look at that woman. Look at that beautiful wife, Erika. You know what? If you're a young woman in this country, the ones who think white boys are misogynists and evil, and that the best thing you can have is a career, those young women, the ones that 50% on the left who have self-admitted mental health problems, you know what? You got to show them that video, because you know what they want? They want that. They want what she had and has. They want a husband like that. They want a life like that. They want a faith like that. And I said, Jake, the good news is you're actually going to now be able to find a wife. You're going to have a life. It's a turning point. The question was, when this happened, how would young people react? I was talking to my friends and associates and saying, we got to see what happens, because This young generation has never had one of them killed. This is their John F. Kennedy assassination from when I was a young boy as a Catholic. This is their moment. And you know what? What did you hear? I talk to you guys all the time about how to read the tea leaves and looking for tells and seeing things that will tell you what the bigger picture is. What did I hear? I heard people on the radio calling in, on TV shows, on podcasts going, yeah, the strangest thing happened. I went home and my children were upset by this. I didn't know they knew who Charlie Kirk was. I didn't know they watched his videos. Charlie Kirk talked about they had 30 million followers on TikTok. What do you think those people are thinking now? They're thinking that they want to be like that. They're thinking that I want to put into practice the things that Charlie Kirk taught me. 30 million of them. That's going to grow because we're in, again, a different time. Never before has something like this happened, and the movie's already made. There's so much video from Charlie Kirk. You could watch it every day and it'd be like he's not dead because his messages were timeless. Normally, tonight, we're recording on Saturday, September 13th. Jesse Waters is going to have a 1-hour special about the life of Charlie Kirk. We don't need to see it. We've already seen it. We've lived it. That's why he's a martyr and why he will be remembered and why Erika says the organization will grow because it's baked in. But the fact of the matter is, and what we need to understand is this evil must be defeated. And it's not going to be defeated by doing nothing. It's going to be defeated because, as Charlie said, there's an assassination culture on the left. And believe me, that devil will do anything. I wrote to Vivek Ramaswamy and I said, it's clear that they will do anything to destroy our nation. And we must take real action to destroy them. To destroy them first. And if we do not, our nation will cease to exist. Do you understand? We must now act. We haven't been acting enough. We've got to take action. And so I was thrilled to see Stephen Miller on Fox last night share this exchange that he had with Charlie Kirk. Because this is what we need to do.
The left calls people enemies of the Republic, calls them fascists, says they're Nazis, says they're evil, says they have to be removed, and then prints their addresses. What do you think they're trying to do? They are trying to inspire someone to murder them. That is their objective. That is their intent. And when you see online, Sean, as we've seen for the last few days, tape after tape after tape of federal workers, bureaucrats, staffers in the Pentagon, educators, professors, healthcare workers, nurses, celebrating the assassination of Charlie Kirk. These are radicalized people. There is a domestic terrorism movement in this country. And let me tell you something I'd not share with anybody, but the last message that Charlie Kirk gave to me before he joined his creator in heaven was he said that we have to dismantle and take on the radical left organizations in this country that are fomenting violence. That was the last message that he sent me before that assassin stole him from all of us. And we are going to do that under President Trump's leadership. I don't care how. It could be a RICO charge, a conspiracy charge, conspiracy against the United States. insurrection, but we are going to do what it takes to dismantle the organizations and the entities that are fomenting riots, that are doxing, that are trying to inspire terrorism, and that are committing acts of wanton violence. It has to stop. And my message is to all of the domestic terrorists in this country spreading this evil hate, you want us to live in fear? We will not live in fear, but you will live in exile.
We will not live in fear. You will live in exile. And Stephen Miller, from your lips to God's ears, this has to start now. Because right now, while you're watching this podcast, there are people on MSNBC saying that Charlie Kirk, they're saying he should have died because they got fired. The guy got fired, but they're saying, oh, Trump's Hitler. And they're saying that the damage on the violence is coming from the left, excuse me, from the right. It's us. We're the violent ones, but we're not. That's propaganda. They're still talking to that person who killed Charlie Kirk and those like him, that it's okay. The polling is clear. 55% of Democrats say it would be okay to kill Trump, to kill Elon Musk, to kill Charlie Kirk, to kill you. We cannot allow that. They need to be shut down. However that has to happen. Is that clear? You're going to have to see. Steve Bannon was saying, when are you going to kick down the doors of those Antifa people like you did the January 6ers? When are you going to have the FBI raids on Soros and on the people on MSNBC, of the professors, the people who talk to this kid? Right now, on Blue Sky, the lefty thing where they all left X because we defeated them because they can't argue with us. So they started Blue Sky so they could vent their filth. There are thousands of people posting who they think should be shot next. That's illegal. That's threatening the life of a public figure. Every one of them needs to be hunted down and arrested. There is a mental illness in our country, the worst ever, and it was done on purpose by the communist Chinese, and you guys know that story. But you know what's amazing? You know what's blowing my mind? The turning point. I'm on X. You can go on x.com and follow us, Tom Z WTPC. And there is story after story after story after story of professors, nurses, doctors, pilots being fired. It's like the reverse of January 6th. Remember when they hunted you? When they were doxing you? When they were turning you in? Oh, that guy and that woman were on January 6th. Fire them. And they did fire us. And they did take our jobs and cut our business and stop going our business. You know what's happening now? The opposite. The opposite. Universities are firing these people. It's awesome. And you know what you're doing? You're on X. They're posting pictures. Here's what this person said. Start talking about it. Put it out there. Because guess what? Everyone who isn't insane understands that they just murdered a person, a good person, because he spoke what he believed in. That's it. He never bullied anybody. They lied about it. He never talked hate speech. He went to these college camps and let anybody come up and they would call him names on the microphone and challenge him, and he would smile and he would never get angry. And they killed him. And if you watch the videos on X or TikTok or Instagram, you're seeing people leaving the Democrats because of this. Okay? Here's a story. Tens of thousands walk away after seeing celebrities or celebrations of Charlie Kirk's assassination. This is happening right now. And I'll post this article, and they've got clip after clip after clip of people saying, I was a lefty. I was a Democrat. You people are sick. Because you know why? If you'll kill him for saying what he wants to believe in because you don't like it, you'll kill me too. I'm done with you. There's a movement happening that you need to know about. It's a massive trend sweeping TikTok right now where lifelong Democrats and even self-described liberals, nose rings and all, are announcing they're done with the Democratic Party. What brought all this on? Watching their fellow Dems openly celebrate the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Many of these people admit they didn't like Charlie or agree with his politics, but they believe in his right to speak, debate, and live without being gunned down in the United States of America. That's the line their party crossed when thousands poured onto social media to celebrate a 31-year-old man being shot in the neck in front of his wife and young kids. So yes, the outrage and shock are very real. And now the countless voters, this was the very moment when the wool came off their eyes and they saw exactly what their party has become, a radical, bloodthirsty, proudly Marxist group of terror extremists. There are literally tens of thousands of these videos. We pulled together the ones we felt were most powerful. Honestly, we encourage you to watch as many as you can because seeing these people finally open their eyes is exactly what Charlie worked for in life and now is accomplishing in death. To open hearts and minds. Even hardcore liberals are horrified, with many saying they're proudly praying for Charlie's family. Most of the Dem voters speaking out on TikTok are declaring they're done. They simply can't align themselves with a party that celebrates murder and death. Many Democrats see the assassination of Charlie Kirk as the death of free speech itself. They are now realizing that the party they supported doesn't actually believe in free speech at all. It's been an eye-opening moment. The guy that was on the microphone talking to Charlie Kirk when he was murdered, when he was assassinated, when he was martyred, was actually trying to tell Charlie Kirk that the left was more peaceful and less violent, and that the violence was coming from the right when Charlie Kirk was shot. Yeah, that guy's on record of saying that he's changed his views. The turning point has begun, and it's a wave that will not only save America, but save the world, because this is the truth. People can now see the truth, okay? And so when Erika said she will not let his legacy die, you and I won't either. I thought this was great. This was on X. This guy said, I want to see a statue of Charlie Kirk on every single college campus in this country. His legacy must continue. Charlie was a voice of reason. He enlightened so many young adults and who are misguided and misled. He encouraged free thought and always accepted criticism. He will forever hold a place in our hearts, and we must always make sure his legacy is remembered. There will be statues of Charlie Kirk, who was a civil rights martyr. The civil rights were free speech, freedom of expression, political free speech. They should be at every high school, at every college campus, a statue. There will be. We will make it happen. I put this out because I wanted to help capture what this turning point has to be. And Erika echoed it in her speech. But I did this. I posted this. In 10 years, we will know how we have honored the legacy of Charlie Kirk when we see high school and college students wearing t-shirts with Charlie's face on them instead of a communist. That's the truth. That's what we have to accomplish. That's what we're going to accomplish. And then I shared this with you in an email the day that he was killed. I posted this video. It's been on our website. You've seen it before. Charlie Kirk talks to Tucker Carlson, and he has a message, a warning about what has to happen to make sure that our country does not dissolve and that the young don't abandon the dream of America. He talks about income inequality. He talks about the housing crisis and that we have to restore the American dream. You can't get married if you can't afford it. You can't have kids if you can't afford it. You can't live the American dream if you can't own a house. Trump gets this. I'll be talking about that later in the podcast. But this video, you need to go back and watch. And you're going to be watching a lot of videos of Charlie Kirk. And your children will, and your grandchildren will. Because the truths he speaks are eternal. This is the turning point. We are part of it. We invested in it. And I will remind you, this week started on Monday with President Trump speaking about religious liberty at the Museum of the Bible. This video is on our website. It's 60 minutes at wethepeopleconvention.org under videos. President Trump, in a powerful address at the Museum of the Bible, emphasized the enduring role of faith in America's identity, highlighting his administration's unwavering defense of faith-based values and reaffirming his commitment to protect our religious freedoms. The president also launched the America's Praise Initiative, a call for Americans to unite in prayer for the nation's strength, peace, and prosperity as the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence approaches. President Trump reaffirmed our nation's founding principles. When faith gets weaker, our country seems to get weaker. When faith gets stronger, good things happen for all of our country. It's amazing the way it seems to work that way, he said. Under the Trump administration, we're defending our rights and restoring our identity as a nation under God. We are one nation under God, and we will always be. That was Monday. And then President Trump said, as English-speaking liberal democracies criminalize religious expression in public or propose to do so, like in England, President Trump is calling on 1 million Americans to pray an hour each week for their country ahead of its 250th birthday, with his White House rebuking the media portrayals of the non-sectarian American Praise Initiative as a form of Christian nationalism. President Trump has called for 1 million of us to pray for 1 hour a week for our nation in preparation of our 250th anniversary. There's not going to be 1 million. There's going to be 100 million, 150 million, 200 million, 250 million praying and acting in defense of individual freedom, liberty, and prosperity, and our religious freedoms and our right to free speech. I need a break. I'm going to take a break right here. And we'll go into the real news of the week, the rest of the news of the week, because things happen this week that affect you. And that's what we talk about. You come here to know what's going on, how it affects you, what we must do. And we will cover that when we come back. But right now, we're going to break for these messages. You've been listening to the We the People Convention News and Opinion podcast. And my name is Tom Zawistowski.
The We the People Convention News and Opinion radio program is paid for by donors like you. You can donate to the We the People Convention and support our cause by going to wethepeopleconvention.org or by sending your check in any amount to We the People Convention, P.O. Box 6211, Akron, Ohio 44312. When you're playing a video, including our podcast, you'll see this little cloud button And if you click it, it'll actually download the video to your hard disk. And this works on our podcast page as well. If you're playing our podcast, and it's going to be loud, so I won't play it for much, but there's our podcast playing, and you can see this little, download button. Okay. The other thing you got to notice on our podcast page is that there's a link here where you can send me a message about this podcast. Hey, it was great. Hey, I didn't like it. Something was wrong, or here's a correction, that kind of thing. You can use that link. And then these are the stories that I covered in this particular podcast. And you'll see there's links that go to the stories, to the articles that I used in reporting on that. So you can click on that. You'll also see that you can sign up for our emails and text messages, but you can also watch our podcast on Roku TV and on Amazon Fire TV. And these are the instructions for doing that. So this is all on our podcast page, right on the front page where the yellow button was. If you click there, this is our podcast page. These are the instructions for watching on Roku TV or Amazon Fire. And I watch our podcast on TV. It just feels more comfortable. So you can do that. We're also on Rumble. If you go to Rumble, you should join Rumble. And it's Tom Z at WTPC. You'll see our podcast there. So you can get us a lot of different ways, including on Apple iTunes. And then this is an audio version of our podcast. If you click here, it'll just play the audio of the podcast. It will not, show you the video. So people can, listen to that while they're jogging or, working out, working in the yard, or just relaxing and just want to listen to the audio and not watch the video. And again, this is available on phone, on your iPad, on your laptop, on your computer, any way you want. And you can share this whatever you see. If you're on a page that you really like, and you see an article that you think, geez, I've got to share this article, with someone in my family. You can send them an email by clicking on the little envelope. You can post it on Parler or MeWe. If you click on this, you get all kinds of options, where you can put it on Twitter or Facebook, whatever, which we don't support, but you can do whatever you want. So we ask that you share what you see on our We the People Convention site, and that you get more people to look at it, because that's the whole idea here, to help educate people, inform them. And then, as I said before, Link, we're not just about talk, we're about action. And in my podcast every week, which is published every Saturday. So if the new podcast usually comes out every Saturday. And in that podcast, I will ask you to do certain things that will help protect and defend your individual freedom, liberty, and prosperity. So that's the We the People Convention website. Come back often, use it to be informed, and share it with others. Thanks a lot.
All right. We're glad you're with us for the second half of our podcast. I know that the first half was pretty emotional, certainly for me. I think probably for you guys. That's why it's a podcast. You can go back and review things. Our chapters player will be out on Sunday, and you can go to any one of the things I said, and you can watch just that section. I will link the videos so you can share them on our podcast page. There's a lot to do. We need to share those videos. We need to share this podcast. Okay? You need to talk louder. You need to not be afraid. Evil is in this world. It must be defeated. It's up to you and I to defeat it. It's not going to just leave you alone. The devil never leaves you alone. We will defeat Satan in the end, and we will fight Satan every day in our lives. Okay, so let's get on to the second half of the show. It was 9/11. The day after Charlie Kirk, he shot on 9/10. The next day, we're remembering 9/11. And the hurt, a lot of people connected that they felt the same way that day because Charlie Kirk made them feel the same way on 9/11, where everyone felt and believed that our country had been attacked, and they were attacked, and it was. And now the assassination of Charlie Kirk was just that all over again. So the remembrance of 9/11 were muted, okay? But I have problems with 9/11 because we still haven't been told the truth about 9/11, okay? And I don't know if we'll ever know the truth about who killed Charlie Kirk. We still don't know who tried to kill Donald Trump. And I honestly think there's people who use 9/11 for their benefit. Honestly, I know that tunnels or towers have done some good. They paid off the mortgages and things, and that's great. But if 9/11 had happened in Cleveland or it happened in Kansas City, 24 years later, you wouldn't see all this stuff. Yeah, 3,000 people died, and we mourn them, and we honor them. But I don't like a lot of what goes on around 9/11, that they keep it alive for their own benefit. And then this story comes out to prove my point. Recently surfaced 9/11 evidence was not shared with the FBI, field agents, or top intelligence officials. Oh, really? What could this be? Well, how about this? Evidence has emerged that could change our understanding of the 9/11 terrorist attacks nearly 24 years ago. The evidence was turned over to the FBI in the weeks after 9/11, but as we first reported in April, it was never shared with the Bureau's own field agents or top intelligence officials. Oh, why? Why is that? Why, after all these years, did this crucial information just surface? Yeah, why is that? The evidence came to light as part of a long-running lawsuit against the Saudi government by the families of nearly 3,000 people killed in the attacks, and includes a chilling video of a Saudi national filming the U.S. Capitol. Now, remember, 24 years later, the families of the 9/11 victims still are in court trying to get the right to sue the Saudis who funded the attack. That's a fact. George Bush covered for them. He allowed them all to flee the country. They were never brought to justice, but we spent $3 trillion going into the Middle East and waging war and solving nothing. So what was this evidence? They never passed it on. Why would you pass this on? A voice on the video says in Arabic, "I am transmitting these scenes to you from the heart of the American capital, Washington, D.C. This video, recorded in the summer of 1999, was unsealed in federal court last year as part of the 9/11 family's lawsuit accusing Saudi Arabia of providing crucial support to the hijackers. Exhibit A in their case, the man who made the video, Omar al-Bayami, who asked a bystander to film in front of the Capitol. The FBI says Bayami was living in the United States on a student visa and being paid by a Saudi aviation company in California, despite not showing up for classes or work ever. Investigators say, in fact, Bayami was an operative of the Saudi intelligence service and had close ties to two of the hijackers. The video was filmed over several days. Bayami recorded entrances and exits of the Capitol, security posts, a model of the building, and nearby landmarks. He was scouting for the attack in 1999. Yeah, but why would this video be part of the investigation? Why wasn't it? Because our government knew about 9/11 and didn't stop it. That's the fact. And that's why we are doing what we're doing. That's why Donald Trump and Pam Bondi and Josh Patel and Dan Bongino and Ed Martin and Judge Janine and the rest are digging through this cesspool, Tulsi Gabbard. Because, folks,
we've come through a period where not only was our government not protecting us, which we pay them to do, right? We have a constitution that gives us rights, and our government was formed to protect our rights. Not only were they not protecting your rights, they were actively taking them from you. How bad, how much worse could it get? How much worse could it get in a republic? That's how bad it was and is, and that we have to fight back to restore. That's what 9/11 meant to me, that we still haven't rooted out the people who did this to us. And we can never stop until we do. And so all these people say, oh, just move on. Quit talking about the past. Oh, no. Oh, no. Because that evil is still there. That cancer is still within us. And then I put this video out for you this week. And if you didn't watch it, watch it. Steve Bannon made a major address last week. He explains that the U.S. must act immediately to check the growing threats against the U.S. from China and Russia and India and from big tech. And we must act now. And he spells it out for President Trump and says, this is what we must do. We must blockade the Iranian oil so it can't get out, so they go broke, and China wouldn't have it, so they can't fight wars. And we must blockade Russia. Quit playing games, damn it. These people are seriously trying to destroy us. And thankfully, we have patriots like Steve Bannon who will speak the truth, and he's on the hit list that they want to kill next, too. Go look it up. And then we had, Poland strikes down Russian drones that violated airspace and potential escalation of the Ukraine war. So Putin is not only not coming to the table because we haven't done anything to prove we're serious, he's now trying to provoke World War III. Poland's military late Tuesday night announced that it had struck down Russian drones that allegedly violated its airspace during a military operation in Ukraine, marking a potential escalation of the war in Europe. Allegedly violated its airspace? There's pictures of Russian drones crashing into buildings on Polish territory. It's not clear how many Russian drones the military struck down or how many invaded Polish airspace, but Poland's operational command said the operation at 9:45 p.m. Eastern time was fully underway. Attention, during today's attack by the Russian Federation carrying out strikes on targets located in the territory of Ukraine, our airspace was repeatedly violated by drone-type objects, the military said on X. Okay? That's what they're doing. We're in war. Internally, externally. This is a serious threat to our nation. You need to understand it. You need to tell other people about that. Because this is real. Just as the left in this country will do anything to cause the fall of our nation, to create a civil war so we will fall and China will rule, they acted out because we're beating their asses. And so they killed Charlie Kirk. And they will kill others. And don't doubt that the Chinese will be happy to kill OAC or someone and blame it on us to light the match. Don't doubt that. Don't doubt that a desperate China who is still strong will invade Taiwan out of desperation to save themselves from the turning point that's coming. We can't let it happen. We have to act like Stephen Miller said, like Steve Bannon said. We have to act now. Now. And so I've been telling you, and I was shocked and thrilled because I don't know how many times I've told you this story, and I told you last week the story that China has a port in Mexico where they ship the chemicals
to make fentanyl that kills Americans, military-age men mostly, and that they have warehouses and Chinese scientists who put the fentanyl together. I've told you that story. To my shock, on Maria Bartiromo's show on Sunday last week, Peter Schweitzer was on, and he literally tells the story for you. So now I've got the receipts. Listen to this clip.
Let's bring in Peter Schweitzer from the Government Accountability Institute, somebody, full disclosure, I do some work with. Peter, you wrote about this in Blood Money, one of your many books. You were on this a couple of years ago, but it seems like now that Trump's in office, they're finally paying attention to us. Explain how this is working and the Chinese involvement.
Yeah, no, I think it's so important that President Trump is taking a strategic approach to the fentanyl crisis, because Joe Biden thought it was just a health care issue. The bottom line is this is a Chinese operation. The drug cartels are the junior partners. The precursor chemicals, as about everybody now knows, come from China, but they're offloaded at the Port of Manzanillo in Mexico, which is run by a Chinese company. Those precursors are shipped up north, where the DEA says 2,000 Chinese chemists happen to be who turn this into the deadly cocktail of fentanyl. The drug cartels then use pill presses that the Chinese have sold to them at cost to produce these pills, which are killing so many Americans. And then the money laundering aspect of it. The drug cartels 20 years ago used banks in Latin America. They're now using state-owned banks. So this is a strategic initiative by China to punish and damage the United States. And I applaud the Trump administration, not just this operation to unwind part of the money laundering aspect and the nature of it, but also the Trump approach on tariffs, which is saying you are going to pay a price. We're not the type of people who are going to do the same thing back to you, but you are going to pay a price with tariffs as long as you continue to put this poison in the United States.
There you go. There you go. It's war. That's war. I said, I want Trump to drone strike those buildings to kill those Chinese scientists. Yes, we intercepted the boat. Now we got to stop it and say to Xi, next boat that leaves harbor in China is going to be at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean. You understand? When you're at war, you have to inflict casualties on your enemies. You have to degrade their resources. Stop them from getting money. Stop them from building their army. Reduce their strength, their forces. We've got to get stronger. We've got to go on offense. That's my message. And then you've got Israel, right? And people, some of you have criticized me about my support for Israel. And then Israel goes and strikes Hamas in Qatar. Israel launched a series of strikes targeting Hamas leadership in the Qatari capital Tuesday in an unprecedented attack inside the territory of an important U.S. ally and key mediator in the Gaza ceasefire talks. Israel took the unusual swift step of swiftly claiming responsibility for the strikes, saying it was part of an operation dubbed Summit of Fire. Hamas said 6 people were killed, including 5 of its members, but the strikes failed to assassinate the negotiation delegation. Several nations have condemned the attack. Quatar called the strike state terrorism. U.S. President Donald Trump said he was not thrilled about the whole situation. Israel's attack on the soil of another nation has threatened to derail renewed ceasefire talks, as well as efforts to secure the release of the remaining Israeli hostages held in Hamas captivity. The strike came hours after Israel ordered the complete evacuation of Gaza City, where thousands of people are living in man-made famine conditions ahead of its planned military takeover. There ain't no peace coming. There's war everywhere. There's evil everywhere. And again, what the Israelis normally do is they would have poisoned the guys, or there would have been a hit job in the foreign nation, right? This time they used F-16s apparently, and so it was more egregious. But Netanyahu this week was saying there will be no Palestinian state. They mean it. The only way this war is resolved is for Israel to defeat their enemies. We cannot be involved. The United States cannot be involved. This is not our fight. This is not our fight. And then this news around the world, and it's important because this fight is global. Brazil sentences former President Jair Bolsonaro to 27 years in prison for fabricating crimes against humanity. You know what this is, folks? This guy is Donald Trump of Brazil. They did to him what they tried to do to Trump here. This is total BS lawfare. They stole the election when he ran for election, just like the left did here in 2020. But now, when Trump was able to stay out of prison, this guy hasn't. Brazil's Supreme Federal Tribunal on Thursday convicted conservative former President Jair Bolsonaro and sentenced him to 27 years and 3 months of prison for his alleged role in a failed coup attempt, marking the first time that a former president of Brazil was convicted for crimes against democracy. Crimes against democracy, don't you know? Doesn't that sound familiar? Bolsonaro and 6 other individuals designated as the core one of the alleged coup plot were found guilty of attempted violent abolition of the democratic rule of law, coup d'etat, participation in armed criminal organizations, aggravated damage, and deterioration of listed heritage sites. Doesn't that sound like January 6th? It's the same damn thing, folks. According to the STF, Bolsonaro allegedly conspired with a broader group of about 30 individuals to stage a coup and overturn the results of the controversial 2022 presidential election. Bolsonaro, at the time, the incumbent president, narrowly lost against a current radical leftist president who is now serving his 3rd term. They trumped him. And Rubio came out and said, America will not stand for this. We're going to sanction Brazil. Because they're evil. Because they're enslaving the people of Brazil like they're trying to do to us here. And I'm glad that America will sanction them and help fight this. And then I put this story out just because I wanted to make the point. Nepal tried to censor the internet. The people set Parliament on fire. And there's a picture of the Nepal Parliament burning. If you were looking for a tutorial on how not to govern, Nepal's ruling classes generously offered a new lesson plan. Step 1, shut down social media because it makes you feel insecure. Step 2, pretend the resulting nationwide meltdown is a fluke. Step 3, watch your approval rating turn into a riot and your parliament buildings go up in flames. What began as a bureaucratic tantrum over unregistered apps spiraled almost immediately into a full-blown generational uprising. The uprising kicked off when Nepal's Ministry of Communications had the bright idea to demand that social media companies register under new regulations and rules so vague that they could have been written by someone trying to criminalize sarcasm. No free speech for you. Just like in England. When the platforms didn't register, the state did what all cornered bureaucrats do. They pulled the plug. The geniuses in Kathmandu declared that banning Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and WeChat because they would not censor would somehow bring digital order to the country. Instead, they triggered the kind of public explosion normally reserved for collapsing currencies or rigged elections. It is important to make clear that the social media blackout may have been lit the match, but the country was already soaked in gasoline. For most of the people in the streets, the platform bans weren't the whole problem. They were the final insult. So let me drill down. Officially, youth unemployment hit 20% in 2024. Unofficially, it's worse, depending on how you define employment and whether you count selling SIM cards on the sidewalks as a job and a career. 1 in every 13 Nepalis work abroad just to keep their families from sinking, sending back enough remittances to prop up a government that thanks them with platitudes and zero policies that support them. The young people still stuck in Nepal, the message has been clear. There is no future here unless your dad is on the party committee. The government hasn't so much failed to create jobs as it has outsourced hope eternally. That's our future. Nepal is our future if we don't turn, if Turning Point doesn't rise up, if Stephen Miller and President Trump and Kash Patel don't start kicking in doors and arresting the people who are attacking us. If Pete Hegseth and the U.S. military doesn't start stopping the drug cartels and destroying the ability for China and Russia to take military operations. That's why I put that story up for you, to show you the future if we don't act. And then there was this story, which was good news. Texas announces ban on Sharia law after Muslim patrol tried to ban alcohol and pork. Now, some of you may have seen this story, but with all the stuff going on, there's a lot you're going to hear in this next half of the podcast that you didn't hear that you needed to hear. This is an important story. Texas Governor Greg Abbott has announced a ban on Sharia law in the state after an imam launched a campaign to pressure Muslim-owned stores to stop selling pork, alcohol, and lottery tickets. Imam Qasim, whatever his name is, was seen in a viral video confronting a store employee and accusing the business of selling haram, products forbidden under Islamic law. As a response, Abbott said Tuesday, I signed laws that ban Sharia law and Sharia compounds in Texas. No business and no individual should fear fools like this imam. The governor also addressed the imam saying, if this person or anyone attempts to impose Sharia compliance, report it to local law enforcement or the Texas Department of Public Safety. Because they're bringing it here. And this is what I mean about the force. Now, again, if this imam so much as does one more thing, he must be arrested. Is that clear? Our members in Texas, is that clear? Are you ready to respond? Because this is the fight we're in. And you can't win it by playing defense. You got to play offense. And then this was great news. We talked about it last week. It finally happens. Okay? Trump administration launches Chicago immigration crackdown. Operation is called Midway Blitz. Okay? That's a good name for this. Good name for this. Let me find my notes on that. Hold on a second. Kind of got myself in the wrong spot here. Sorry. Okay, here we go. The Department of Homeland Security is launching Operation Midway Blitz to target undocumented immigrants who have committed crimes in Chicago and Illinois. The operation is named in honor of Katie Abraham, a 20-year-old woman killed in a hit-and-run accident by an undocumented immigrant. Illegal. They're not undocumented. They're illegal. The initiative follows President Trump's promise to send federal troops and more ICE agents to Chicago in response to violent Labor Day weekend. And so he's getting pushed back. But the President Trump, and let's see here, Homeland Security Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin said in a statement that the operation will go after the worst of the worst, accusing Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker and local politicians of releasing gang members, rapists, kidnappers, and drug traffickers that put lives at risk. President Trump and Secretary Noem have a clear message. No city is a safe haven for criminal illegal aliens. If you come to our country illegally and break our laws, we will hunt you down, arrest you, and deport you, and you will never return. Hear, hear, Mr. President. That's the action we want, okay? And then Trump is sending in the National Guard to Memphis, Tennessee. Trump said National Guard troops heading to Memphis to fight crime. He announced this on Fox News, and then they did a press conference. We're going to Memphis. Trump announced Memphis had the country's highest murder rate in 2024. It's been a mess forever. Everyone has known that. Memphis is just unbelievable for the crime, the black on black crime. President Donald Trump says he's deploying the National Guard to Memphis, choosing a city in a Republican-controlled state where the governor welcomes the intervention as the next target in his crime crackdown. We're going to Memphis, Trump said on Fox News and Friends, calling Memphis deeply troubled and adding that Tennessee Governor Bill Lee, a Republican ally of Trump, and the city's Democratic mayor, Paul Young, are both happy about the plans. We're going to fix Memphis just like we fixed Washington. Memphis, which has long struggled with crime, had the highest rates of murder and other violent crime of any city with populations greater than 500,000 in the United States in 2024, according to USA Today analysis of FBI data, with 40.6 homicides per 100,000 people. Chicago's like at 21. They're at 40. This is how you make America great again. This is how you win the 2026 election. This is how you get other cities to invite us to do the same. This is how you expose the complete lie of cops are bad, let the criminals out, cashless bail. That was all done by George Soros and his commie backers to destroy our cities. And as I said to you last week, when people start understanding that, hey, we don't have to live this way anymore, they're not going to want to, and they're not going to accept it. And they're going to demand leaders who, after this is fixed, keep it. Because I said to you last week, what is the function of government in its base level? Why do we need government at all? For two reasons. To keep you safe and enforce the laws, and to provide essential services like roads, bridges, trash removal, water and sewer. And our governments, in blue cities particularly, are doing that the least. The roads are a mess. Trump talked about Washington, D.C. They're actually fixing potholes as part of the crime crackdown. It's a total failure to govern. That's the legacy of the Democrat Communist Party. They're not there to help you. They're hurting you. They're letting you die. They want you to die. This move by Trump is proving it. And it's powerful. And it's powerful. Okay, so now I move into some things that are really exciting on the drug side of things, on the healthcare, because that's the other way you make America great, by having your healthcare back, that you can live healthy throughout your life. Government launches new programs to reduce childhood chronic disease in the MAHA Commission. Okay? I'm sorry, I'm having trouble with my things here. President Donald Trump has directed the Food and Drug Administration to ramp up efforts to ensure that the advertising on prescription drugs. Okay, wait a minute. I'm on the wrong one. I'm so sorry. It was a hard podcast to prepare for, and I'm just struggling a little bit. Federal government is going to launch new programs and change rules and recommendations to improve the health of Americans, and the Make America Healthy Again Commission said in a new strategy report released on September 9th. Among the new efforts outlined by officials in the 20-page Make Our Children Healthy Again report are plans to review and update guidance and regulations for food served at hospitals, the launch of a new vaccine injury research program at the National Institute of Health Clinical Center in Maryland, the removal of restrictions on selling whole milk in schools. Wow, how about that? An update of labeling for the opioid OxyContin to warn about the dangers of repeated use, and the start of a campaign aimed at boosting the health and fertility of young men and women who want to have children. The whole sterility issue, where men have lost 50% of their sperm count. Okay? Today's reports outlines a bold framework to improve children's health. Vince Haley, director of the White House Domestic Policy Council and the commission's executive director, said during a briefing in Washington. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. said, the commission's chair said, I'm grateful that a lot of those 128 recommendations are things I've been dreaming about my whole life. Wow. This is important. And I'll link to that story, and you can actually read the whole thing. Okay? You can read the actual 128 points that are in it. Then let me go on to this next story, because we've been talking about this for a long time, that we need to be able to start to produce our own medicines here. Well, during COVID, we found out that all the medicines were made in China and India. We can't do that. So this is no small thing. Trump brings key prescription drug home to U.S. in sweeping Walmart deal. the United States is set to increase its manufacturing of amoxicillin, a widely used prescription antibiotic that recently faced a national shortage after Walmart and a medical supply and distribution company, McKesson, inked a deal with the nation's lone manufacturer of the drug. We are thrilled to work with Walmart and McKesson to bring domestically manufactured antibiotics directly to American families, Patrick Cashman, president of U.S. Antibiotics, said in a press release of the announcement on Monday. We extend our deepest gratitude to Walmart and McKesson for their leadership in supporting U.S. manufacturing of a critical generic medicine. This collaboration represents more than a business relationships. It's a commitment to Americans' health security. U.S. Antibiotics, located in Bristol, Tennessee, and expects to produce enough amoxicillin products to meet 100% of the nation's demand for these essential medications under this deal. Walmart pharmacies will offer the U.S.-made amoxicillin, while McKesson will provide the antibiotic through its massive national distribution service, according to the press release. Amoxicillin, which was discovered by UK scientists in the 1950s, treats bacterial infections such as pneumonia and is most commonly prescribed antibiotic for children, Fox Digital previously reported. The FDA declared a national shortage of amoxicillin in 2022, which persisted into the next year, 2023, as experts pointed to the U.S. supply chain relying on foreign nations such as China and India, providing common drugs while U.S. use of prescription use is increased. Walmart told Fox Digital on Wednesday that the partnership related to the amoxicillin builds off the company's pledge to invest an additional $350 billion in products that originate in the U.S. by 2030. Walmart, actions, not just words. Go into Walmart, ask for the manager, and say thank you. Good job. We're great at, blacklisting companies that go woke, and Walmart's had problems in its past. But this is what we want to reward. This is what I told you guys about going into Cracker Barrel, because now, did you see the Cracker Barrel is not just stopping going woke, they're going to revert the restaurants that they had changed back to the old design. Wow. So what do we got to do? What do you have to do? This is a direct ask. You got to help make Cracker Barrel successful again. Why? So other companies that were woke will find out and understand that if we change, we'll get rewarded. Right? Let's go into Cracker Barrel and say, I'm here because you listen to us and you're not woke anymore. You're not going to fund drag shows and gay parades. Do that. And go into Walmart and say, thank you. Because this is essential to us. We can't be dependent on China for our medicine. Thank you, Walmart. That's a direct ask. And then this is not all of what we wanted, but it's close. Trump cracks down on prescription drug ads. Here's what you need to know. President Trump has directed the Food and Drug Administration to ramp up its efforts to ensure that advertising of prescription drugs directed to consumers is transparent and accurate. Now, he didn't say we're going to ban them, okay, which is what we wanted. That includes requiring drug makers to provide more information on the risks of using the drug and stepping up enforcement of federal laws regulating these ads. This action, ordered by a presidential memorandum on September 9th, could have far-reaching implications for drug manufacturers who collectively spend billions each year to present their products directly to prospective patients through broadcast media. The ripple effect could impact new media like the internet, YouTube, things like that, as the FDA ramps up enforcement in digital spaces, including via social media influencers, algorithmically served ads, and artificial intelligence and chat box. So that's an interesting change. The bottom line is that they're spending billions of dollars to get you to go in and say to your doc, I have these symptoms. Can you prescribe that for me? And the research shows that they do, even though the doctor may not think you need it. Why? They make money writing prescriptions. So you come and say, I want it. They give it to you whether they think you need it or not. That's got to stop. So RFK Jr. was talking about, because I think it was in It was in 1997 that the FDA said that you added the provision allowing pharmaceutical companies to broadcast ads that included only the most important risks while referring consumers to other sources for more complete information. So you get the ad, and the ad's all this dancing and stuff, and then there's this little type that says, well, it may cause heart attacks, liver infection, cancer, whatever, right? Well, RFK Jr. is now saying they may not be able to buy those 30-second commercials. They may have to buy 2-minute commercials and list all the studies and things that show what could happen to you. That could have an effect. So again, I think the problem was it was a First Amendment issue, right? You're going to ban these ads, and they're going to go to court and say, hey, you can't do that. So now maybe Trump and RFK have figured out we're not going to fight that fight. We're just going to make it so hard for them they don't do it. Maybe so. I don't know. But I was glad to see it. I was glad to see this. Okay. A few more stories. And I know this podcast, I knew it was going to be long because the first half was so tough. But we're not going to be too bad. But we got some more important stories. All of you in New Jersey, our members in New Jersey, listen up. Stay out of our classrooms. New Jersey's trying to mandate homeschoolers with DEI. Okay? From the 45 goals of communism to take over America. This is one of the 45 goals. Many of you in our movement are familiar with these lists of goals for the communists. Goal number 17, get control of the schools, use them as a transmission belt for socialism and current communist propaganda. Soften the curriculum, get control of the teachers' associations, put the party line in textbooks. The same communists in the Democratic Party who scream stay out of our bedrooms are now trying to slime their way into our kids' homeschooling. New Jersey is considering a bill that would force homeschoolers to teach a myriad of loony left-wing propaganda to their kids. The communist curriculum includes the three-headed hydra of leftist propaganda, gender garbage, DEI, and climate studies. This is Factorama. There is a reason homeschooling is the fastest growing mainstream education plan in the United States, with 4.2 million American kids now getting educated at home. It's because their parents don't want their children being subject to the communist indoctrination, right? So what's New Jersey doing? They're going to pass a bill that says if New Jersey parents think they simply can opt out of this the puffery, check out Mickey Sherrill, the Democrat governor nominee. And in this article, which I'll link to in our podcast page, there's a video of this woman, the Democrat who's currently leading in the polls in New Jersey, saying, you homeschoolers, you're not going to be able to opt out. We're going to make you file reports showing that you taught your kids this garbage. New Jersey, the person running for governor says this on video. Show it to everyone and tell them to vote for the Republican. Right? That's how you fight the evil. That's what they're trying to do to in your state. Now, speaking of evil, the day that Charlie Kirk was killed, was murdered, was assassinated, was martyred, there was a school shooting in Evergreen, Colorado. The same school district that had Columbine years ago. No students at the school were killed. 3 were injured, I believe. The shooter killed himself because he was online following these white separatist, white Nazi groups that all they talk about is wanting to be a school shooter. And this kid wanted to be a school shooter. And so he went to the school, and because it was from Columbine, they were able to lock down the school and stuff, but he still shot a couple of students who were wounded, and then he killed himself. But here's the good news. This is what we need to see more of. 13-year-old boy with school shooter identations found with collection of guns, mass shootings, writing, says the sheriff. A 13-year-old boy who may have idolized previous mass shooters has been arrested after police found a large collection of guns and mass shooting scenario writings at his Washington State home, authorities said. Police were notified on Friday afternoon that about the boy who allegedly had school shooter ideas, was making threats to kill and said he had access to guns, according to the sheriff's office in Pierce County, which encompasses Tacoma, Washington. Police searched the boy's home early Sunday morning. The sheriff's office said authorities found a large quantity of secured and unsecured guns, loaded magazines with school shooter writings on them, and clothes and writings that reinforce a typical mass shooting scenario. Deputy Carly Capito with the Pierce County Sheriff's Office told ABC News authorities found 23 firearms inside the home, many of which appeared to be homemade long guns using 3D printed parts. The teenager has been charged with attempted threat to bomb, injure a school, unlawful possession of a firearm, unlawful possession of fireworks, according to court documents. He is due in court Monday. The boy's parents have not been charged in the crime, according to Capito. The teenager allegedly had social media posts dating back to June with photos of him holding guns, as well as messaging that appears to show a fascination of recent school shooting mass casualty attacks, according to court documents. Police recovered posts that appeared to reference the 1999 Columbine High School mass shooting and the 2022 Uvalde, Texas elementary school mass shooting, according to court documents. Materials for fireworks and explosives were also recovered at the house. The boy is not currently enrolled in the school, according to the school district, but had attended there in 2021. That's what I'm talking about. It's time to be locking people up. It's time for you and I and your children to say, this person's got pictures of them with a gun and they're 14 years old. Maybe we have to have a conversation with them. And I got it. I got it for all the people in our membership and watching this video. We're for the Second Amendment. We're for gun rights, okay? But we're not for being stupid as a society. We've got to get more aggressive, okay? But not from an ideological, political viewpoint, which, oh yeah, the day Charlie Kirk was shot, what did you have? OAC and Chuck Schumer saying, and look it, Charlie Kirk gets shot and the Republicans won't pass gun laws. Because the gun didn't shoot Charlie Kirk, the shooter did. We have to understand it's the shooters, not the guns. And we got to go after the potential shooters, right? Okay. This was a crazy story, but it goes back to what I said about how broke our government is and what Trump has to do. This is just nuts, folks. Job growth revised down by almost 1 million jobs. 911,000 through March, signaling economy on shakier footing than realized. Really? No kidding. You think the economy is on shakier ground? Folks, Biden, we were almost done. We came this close. We were almost done. And we knew it. They lied. The jobs reports were all lies. Oh, the economy is great. And the Fed is, you got 9% interest rates. It was insane. The labor market created far fewer jobs than previously thought, according to the Labor Department report Tuesday, that added to the concerns both about the health of the economy and the state of data collection. Yeah, no kidding. The state of data collection is crap. You don't know what you're talking about. It's all lies. An annual revision to non-farm payrolls from the year prior to March 2025 showed a drop of 911,000 from the initial estimates, according to a preliminary report from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. The total revision was on the high end of Wall Street expectations, which ranged from a low of around 600,000 to as many as 1 million. The revisions were more than 50% higher than last year's adjustment and the largest on record back to 2002. Okay? The BLL's preliminary benchmark revisions for non-farm payrolls show a much weaker labor market. Importantly, the slower job creation implies income growth was also on a softer footing even prior to the recent rise in policy uncertainty and economic showdowns we've seen since the spring. This should give the Fed more impetus to start in cutting cycle of interest rates. So they're saying because of this, the Fed's probably going to do a 0.5% interest rate cut. They should do a full percent now, okay? But let me just add to this to put this in perspective. Today, the BLS released the largest downward revision on record, proving that President Trump was right. Biden's economy was a disaster and the BLS was broken, White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt said in a statement. This is exactly why we need new leadership to restore trust and confidence in the Bureau of Labor Statistics data on behalf of the financial markets, businesses, policymakers, and families that rely on this data to make major decisions. No kidding. Stop lying. It's Charlie Kirk. It's about the truth. It's about telling the truth and knowing the truth. And then this story, I got no traction. Now, it came out right before the shooting of Charlie Kirk, the assassination of Charlie Kirk, but it got no traction except for on whitehouse.gov, and then the New York Post had it as an exclusive. I think this is a pretty big deal. Trump administration projects $5 trillion reduction in costs after deregulatory blitz, according to the OMB. The Trump administration is eradicating a host of progressive regulations related to climate change and other left-wing causes, including an Obama-era emissions finding that spiked energy prices and mandates requiring all executive agencies to stop buying paper straws. We've covered all that stuff about the historic ruling that this Obama emissions rule is out. The Office of Management and Budget expects that the deregulation blitz will save American businesses as much as $5 trillion over the next fiscal year. Over the next fiscal year, $5 trillion. Do you understand? Because regulations cost money. It costs me money in my business, right? I have to file things at the FCC and stuff, and every time I write checks, that's money I don't have to hire employees, to invest in our business, or anything. $5 trillion in cuts to business regulations will mean more hiring, more buildings, more sales, more taxes, less debt. This is a big deal. No one reported it. OMB Director Russ Vought listed some of the actions during a cabinet meeting last week. And officials tell the Post that more than 200 liberalized moves are already reducing the federal government's spending. One OMB senior official projected the move to cut former President Barack Obama's 2009 endangerment finding, dubbed the holy grail of the climate change religion, could save trillions in unnecessary regulatory costs alone. Other rule cuts are anticipated to remove up to $500 billion in regulatory cuts. In the unified agenda, the administration is eliminating at least 30 executive regulations for every new regulation added, Vought said in a statement. This is one of the first steps in the most ambitious and aggressive deregulatory agenda in American history. So Trump had said to Vought and the OMB, I want for every new regulation, 10 to be repealed, 10. We're doing 30. We're doing 30. That was the secret of Trump's first term that most people never knew. They thought it was the tax cuts in the 2017 bill, but it was the reduction in regulation that turbocharged business and created the job market. It's coming now again. $5 trillion in a year? Hold on to your hats. And when the Fed finally starts to cut rates, you're going to see unbelievable economic growth just in time for 2026. Okay? Now, this is a concern, and I put this out to you because this is a very good article. Electric costs are rising for consumers as data centers go online or come online. This was a really good article, and I'm not going to read it all here, but you can find it at wethepeopleconvention.org, and I texted it out and emailed it out. AI isn't free. The first costs are on your bill, and more are coming. This is from a guy named Kay Ruback at the Epoch Times on September 9th. The United States is in a race to achieve global dominance in artificial intelligence. Whoever has the largest AI ecosystem will set global AI standards and reap broad economic and military benefits, according to the Americans AI Action Plan, July 25th, 2025. That's the U.S. government's own language, an arms race. Artificial intelligence is no longer framed as a research project or an economic opportunity. It's being cast as a struggle for survival and global power, a modern Manhattan Project. And I've said that to you. I believe that's true. I believe we have to win this race, and power is key. And we've talked about that. Yet just last week, on August 26th, the Congressional Research Service released a frequently asked questions memo, an FAQ memo, designed to help lawmakers get on the same page about the basics. What a data center is, how many exist, how much electricity data centers consume. If even government institutions are still in the process of aligning their understanding, it's clear that citizens will need to move quickly to understand what is happening and understand what it means for their daily lives. The memo laid out in plain language what many assumed lawmakers already understood, but they didn't. A data center is a specialized building that houses thousands of servers. There are about 7,000 of these worldwide, with the largest concentration in the United States, especially in Northern Virginia and Texas. In 2022, American data centers consumed about 176 terawatts hours of electricity, roughly 4% of U.S. demand, more than many entire states. Projections suggest an additional 35 to 108 gigawatts of demand by 2030. The midpoint estimate, 50 gigawatts, is enough to power every home in California. That's the scope of the problem. The very fact that such a memo was necessary highlights a structural reality. The pace of technological build-out is outstripping the pace of legislative comprehension. If institutions themselves are still catching up, it underscores how important it is for citizens to get informed now before the costs mount even higher. While Congress is being briefed on Data Centers 101, the executive branch has been preparing all year. On January 20th, they declared a national energy emergency. On April 8th, an order was issued to strengthen grid reliability. 4 months later, on July 2nd, the DOE report warned bluntly, retirements plus load growth increase risk of outages by 100%. We've got to stop retiring coal plants, nuclear plants, whatever. Just weeks later, on July 23rd, a new order accelerated federal permitting of data centers, opening federal land to construction. And on July 25th, the White House released America's AI Action Plan. For many Americans, the gap between governmental priorities and local realities show up in one place: your monthly electric bill. Reports are now showing how in Columbus, Ohio, households on standard utility plans saw increases of about $20 a month, roughly $240 a year, linked directly to AI data centers. In New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Ohio, bills jumped by $10 to $27 a month. Ours jumped way more than that, and I just renegotiated my electric plan. In Ohio, we have the ability to choose who provides the electricity, and then you pay your local electric company for delivering it. I had to agree to a 30% increase in electric costs. The complaints about rising bills suggest something deeper. Citizens are starting to connect the dots before Washington fully has. If households can feel the costs already, then citizens cannot wait for official briefings. They must demand clarity and prepare themselves. Part of the confusion comes from the nature of artificial intelligence itself. To most people, AI feels intangible. It lives in the cloud. You type a question, get an answer, and never see the machinery behind it. No one sends you a receipt for the power you use to get your answer from AI. That's a fact. Every query you make burns electricity. Every one. And there's billions of them a day. So we've got to talk to our local representatives, because like in Ohio, I'm hearing that even though these AI centers want to put like a gas-powered electric plant right next to them so they don't have to interface with the grid, in Ohio, that's illegal. What? We got to make it legal. You got to engage on this issue. You start by reading this article, because the rest of it talks to you about what you can do and what the problems are and gives you examples. We must engage on this issue, just like I've asked you to engage on recruiting people to skilled trades. They're in connection. We need the skilled trades to build the power plants and to help build the grid and to build the data centers. But we also need the electricity, and we need to get the legislators on the ball to get that done. So I shared that with you. Please share it with others. Okay, we're getting to the end here. Got a few more stories, and then we'll wrap this up. I thought this was Charlie Kirk talking about it, man. This was awesome. Trump rumors housing emergency would be a game changer, key GOP lawmaker says. One of the House GOP's staunchest housing affordability advocates is calling President Donald Trump's rumored emergency order on the issue a game changer. House Main Street Caucus Chair Mike Flood of Nebraska, who also chairs the Housing and Insurance Subcommittee on the House Financial Services Committee, told Fox News Digital that he is hoping Trump ultimately follows through on declaring a state of emergency on housing availability. Wow, that's what Charlie Kirk talks about in the video I told you about in the first half, where he talks with Tucker Carlson. We have a housing shortage and a supply issue. It pushes up valuations, which pushes up your property taxes because your valuations go up. It pushes up home insurance premiums because the value of your home is more expensive if there is some kind of a claim, Flood explained. So the president of the United States putting his thumb on a scale and saying that housing is a critical situation and is an emergency, that changes the entire conversation. Those discussions are being had, not just from an emergency declaration standpoint, but what we can do in order to bring the cost down and bring the supply up. Home prices have skyrocketed in recent years, outpacing wage growth and making small houses that once were considered starters for young families out of reach for millions of Americans. It's the heart of the issue. Mr. President, get to work. We got to act on this. We've got to cut regulations for building construction. We've got to open up federal lands to put new homes on. We've got to get rid of, any obstacle to lowering the price of housing. And one great way to do that is get 12 million illegals out of our country because they're taking up housing, and we need to make housing more available so prices will come down. Okay? We're doing it, but you've got to keep going. This was great, but still makes you mad. Senate finally takes the nuclear option on confirmations. And you guys played this role. You were calling your senators. We wanted them to stay in August and confirm them. We wanted them to let Trump do recess appointments. And Thune came out and said, we're not going to take this. The Democrats are responsible. They're obstructing this. And we said, bull. That's a lie. You had the power all along. They didn't want to use it. Finally they did. On Thursday, Senate Republicans triggered the nuclear option that was holding back many of Donald Trump's nominations. Now things can get moving. Republicans triggered the nuclear option to change the rules of the Senate on party line basis Thursday, a move that will allow them to speed up confirmation of President Donald Trump's nominees for key executive branch positions. The vote was 53-45 to establish a new rule that allows the Senate to confirm an unlimited number of nominees en bloc, meaning at one time, we're going to consider 50 people, okay, rather than process them each one individually. The rule applies to executive branch nominees subject to 2 hours of Senate debate. So these are the sub-cabinet people and ambassadors and things like that. It will not affect judicial nominations. Republicans say they'll allow their own senators to object to individual nominees in any given block, but the rule will strip away the power of Chuck Schumer and the minority party to do the same thing. That is what we voted for. The GOP is finally playing hardball in the Senate, and what's more, the caucus seems to be holding together pretty well as we got 53 votes, meaning that Tillis and Collins and Murkowski voted with us. I will note to you, this vote came the day after Charlie Kirk was shot and killed and assassinated and martyred. Don't think the Senate didn't get the message. We ain't putting up with them undermining President Trump, undermining our vote. We're not putting up with it. I think they got the message. So congratulations to you for acting in defense of your individual freedom, liberty, and prosperity by getting that done. Okay? This is really good news. Long overdue. Michigan judge dismisses charges against 15 pro-Trump fake electors. Man, this was good news. A Michigan judge has dismissed criminal charges against 15 people who signed false certificates saying Donald Trump won the state's electoral votes in 2020. Trump lost the state and the presidency to Joe Biden. It's the latest loss in prosecutors' efforts to hold accountable people associated with Trump's attempt to overturn his election loss. In May, an Arizona judge sent that state's so-called fake electors case back to a grand jury. The Nevada case is stuck in a jurisdictional appeal after a court dismissed the case last year. In Georgia, the Fulton County District Attorney's Office is fighting to keep its prosecution alive after a court ruled that the DA's office should be removed from the case. And notably, the federal elections interference case against Trump himself was dropped when he was re-elected president. In Michigan, Judge Kristen Simmons dismissed the charges during a court hearing Tuesday, citing a lack of evidence. This is a fraud case, and we have to prove intent, the judge said, and I don't believe there was evidence sufficient to prove the intent of fraud. Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel, a Democrat operative, announced the charges 2 years ago. 16 people were originally indicted, but charges were dropped against one of them in exchange for their cooperation. Some pro-Trump 2020 electors have defended their actions by saying they were merely doing so in case Trump's challenges of the elections were successful. Here's the bottom line. The election was stolen. They were right to sign to be electors because it could have happened very quickly that Trump was declared the winner. And there was nothing they did that was illegal. This was lawfare. These 16 people have suffered all these years by being accused of something that isn't a crime. The Democrats have done this forever. We showed videos back then of the Democrats sending electors saying, oh, Bush didn't win the election or whatever, okay? They just had their case thrown out because there was no case. There was no case. And now we have to go into the fraud. Now we have to prove that Trump won, that they stole votes. And we're being told that's coming. Pray, keep praying. We must have that. We must have that, okay? And the person who said that and proves that, I stumbled along this video this week, and it's really good, and you need to watch it. John Solomon, the Russiagate Playbook. It's at wethepeopleconvention.org in the video section. And John Solomon, who we know, love, and respect from Just the News, is being hosted by Jan Jekielek from the Epoch Times in their American Thought Leaders video. Solomon says, the corruption of our government over the past 16 years is unprecedented in our history. Those responsible must be held accountable if we are to survive as a nation. John Solomon, founder and editor-in-chief of Just the News, does a deep dive into what we know now, 9 years later, about the origins of the Russian collusion probe. How did these events change America? We will never know what history was stolen from us, what opportunities diplomatically were stolen from us, what security opportunities were thwarted because this dirty trick was allowed to extend so far, Solomon says. And he has a section in that video where Jan says to him, John, explain this to the common people and why it's important. And he goes into a little discussion of what the hell Russiagate was that you would have with someone at the bar if you're having some drinks and someone said, hey, Solomon, tell me about this. You're going to want to watch that video and share it, okay? You're going to want to watch that video and share it. And so this has been a hell of a podcast, right? It's been a hell of a podcast. And it's been, about this for the most part. Our friend, Charlie Kirk, was taken from us and what that means. And I hope I did a good enough job of helping you understand what it means and what might happen and what your role in it and what we must do together. And you can go back and watch those segments because I know it was coming at you hard and fast. It's coming at me hard and fast. Okay? But it's there for you because you're the next man up. You're the secession plan, whether it's me or Charlie Kirk. It's you. And you've got to accept that role, whatever the cost. Because like Charlie, you believe in this country. In this beautiful country, as his wife Erika said. I gave you a lot of homework in this show, right? Lots of videos. You got to share Erika's video with everyone. You got to share the Stephen Miller video, right? I talked to you about Steve Bannon. I talked to you about, John Solomon. There's a lot in this podcast. I know that. But you also have to share the podcast. Tell people about this. And if you have questions or comments, and I want your comments. Erika said Charlie read all your emails. We read all your emails. Write to me at info@wethepeopleconvention.org. info@wethepeopleconvention.org. We read them. I'll respond to you. Okay? I want to know if this is your podcast. The goal is simple: to give you the tools you need to protect and defend your individual freedom, liberty, and prosperity, and to protect our country and defeat the left. I think I've done that for you in this podcast. I hope I have. If I haven't, let me know. Okay? So we're going to wrap it up. God willing, we'll be together again next week. I hope you have a good week. It's got to be better than last week. It's got to be better than last week was. But we've got to make it better by doing the things we talked about. Okay? Make it a great week. Make America great again. Right? That's what we got to do. Not just President Trump, not just RFK, not just Tulsi Gabbard, not just Cash and Pam Bondi, not just all of them. Us. We the people. Okay? You've been listening to the We the People Convention News and Opinion Podcast. My name is Tom Zawistowski. May God bless you. And as I say every time, God has already blessed America, but we still need God's blessing going forward. And as hard as it is to accept Charlie Kirk's martyrdom, I think God still is blessing us. Okay? We'll see you next week.
Can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fights, oh, the ramparts we watched were so gallant
At the end of every podcast, I have a graphic, and those of you who listen to the audio only don't get to hear it very often. Those of you who watch the video know it well. It's a quote from Winston Churchill, and I feel it's important for me to read it today. If you will not fight for right when you can easily win without bloodshed, if you will not fight when your victory is sure and not too costly, you may come to a moment when you will have to fight with all the odds against you and only a precarious chance of survival. There may even be a worse case. You may have to fight when there is no hope of victory because it is better to perish than to live as slaves. We must fight. We must fight the evil that took Charlie Kirk. I also put a quote on my emails that many of you get, and it's from Winston Churchill as well. He says, "It is not a choice to fight evil, for you must fight evil, because evil will either kill you now or it will kill you later, but it will surely kill you." That's why Stephen Miller's comments were so important. They killed Charlie Kirk. They will gladly kill you and me and our country if we don't destroy them first. It's our right to defend ourselves. It's our duty to defend our nation. God bless America.